So, roll and write games are a little hard to cover. I've only played a fraction of those available on the market, and by the time I'm finished recording this video, I'm sure there's going to be 5 more available. And their innovations tend to be quite iterative, so remixing popular mechanics in sort of small, subtle ways, new themes. So ultimately, how you come down any particular one is going to come down to the personal taste. It just so happens the roll and write we're looking at today, Wok and Roll, is quite full of flavour. Hi, I'm Daniel from Board Game Feast, where the dining table and games table meet to allow you to play with your food. Today we're doing a traditional review here of Wok and Roll, designed by Daryl Chow and published by Origame. So Wok and Roll is a roll and write game, obviously, that simulates the envy of sharing a meal with friends, but really wanting what they ordered. That is specifically, you're actually running rival restaurants. Each player will have their own board, dry erase board, I should add, and you're each running your own restaurant, cooking dishes using these dice. You'll be rolling each turn to dictate which ingredients you have and which dishes you can cook with them. So each player is going to have their own restaurant board here, where you're welcome to add your own punny name up the top here. So each turn, one player is going to be the start player, or the head chef, as we refer to it. You're going to be rolling these 6 dice. You get 2 free re-rolls of whichever dice you may like, reserving any that you want to keep, and so on. Once you finished your re-rolls or you're happy with your results, you're then going to use these ingredients to fulfill dishes. So each one of these dishes is going to require between 2 and 3 or 4 sometimes ingredients. Generally 2 of one particular ingredient and another. So you have all the rice dishes here that will generally require 2 rice and 1 of something else. For example, with these dice here, we could create a chicken and rice dish, rice chicken, and you would just tick off the top box of that row. Now, the trick here being that only the start player gets to use the results of the red dice. Everyone else only has the white dice. So the start player really has a lot more agency, that not only do they get to decide what dice are re-rolled, they also just get more dice to choose from. And then on each subsequent turn, that roll is going to rotate. So everyone's going to have a turn subsequently to be that start player and roll the dice. So these red dice obviously are what make this game stand out. They really introduce a clever element of player interaction. The rules specifically call out the fact that you can prevent other players from being able to do anything by making sure that they don't have 2 of a particular ingredient. Most of the recipes require 2 rice or 2 noodles, for example. And if you make sure that the white dice only have 1 of each of those, you can make up for the second of each with these red dice. Now, obviously, that can create some clever little interactions. It can feel bad to be on the receiving end of that, though. It's possible some turns that you won't be able to do anything. There won't be the ingredients that are there. You won't be able to cook anything. So it's a tough to balance the cleverness of interrupting other players' turns without bringing down the overall mood of the table, obviously. I find it can be better played when you're not thinking too much about that. Like, focus on what ingredients you want, and if you're blocking everyone else, that'd be incidental, rather than actively trying to the hate roll against them. It also depends on the number of players, obviously. I've played at 2 and 3. Obviously, with 2 players, it's going to be passing back and forth a little more often. So there's not much downtime between really feeling like you have agency over your role. 3 players, it wasn't too bad, especially except if you play a little more loose. I played it at a pub, which it was a good environment for just moving things along. Don't focus too much on other people's boards. I do feel like at 4 and 5, it would probably drag. But both, it would be a long time before each of your actual turns that feel like you have something to do. I think part of that, though, that's come down to expectations. At its outset, it seems like a game that's about simultaneous play. That you'll be able to play, you'll be able to write on every turn. But that can breed expectations and then disappointment when you can't actually do anything. It helps, I think, a little to frame this game as being a turn-based game. It is primarily one person's turn that you can sometimes eke out a little bit of an advantage. You can write down something on their turn, but it's not really a full turn as far as you're concerned. Now, there are ways in which you can mitigate that. Now, there's a few tricks to this game here. You'll see there's these locked blocks here. To get those, you need to learn a recipe by reading the recipe books. There's these recipe book symbols that you can spend to unlock those locked recipes. So the other key thing to look for here is a lot of these boxes that you tick off will have an ingredient on them in turn, which will unlock that ingredient in your pantry. So if you tick off this box here, for example, that will give you a prawn. You can circle it over here, and now on a subsequent turn, or even this turn, if you have more dice to spend, you can spend this prawn for a separate dish. There are a few other bonus abilities to look for here. Further down, there are these symbols that will allow you to spend books as a wild card for a particular ingredient. So this one, for example, would let you spend books as broccoli. There are a couple that will let you lock a dice before you start rolling, but that's obviously only when you're the start player. So it's more useful for games with fewer players. The more players, the less often that's going to become useful. There's the pantry that you can unlock bonus ingredients in, and cleverly setting yourself up for those lean years, stocking your pantry full of ingredients, and then using those to combo with what your opponents roll on their turn can actually be a key to victory here, making they actually be able to take advantage of that. So then there is some cleverness here, learning the board where those ingredients are, what is going to be most useful to you on those sort of lean years to really get an advantage. There is a simple side to the rules. Simplified mechanics that are very, very good for introducing to new players, people who might not be super familiar with roll and writes. It is quite simplified, though. You don't have any of the locked recipes that you need to you don't need to unlock any particular recipes for this. Everything's available. You don't have there's no real focus on the pantry. You just have the ingredients that you want. There's a few more skills to unlock. You can basically unlock whichever skills you want with the books. So there's a little more agency in that regard, but there's far fewer options overall without those pantry options to plan around those downturns. So I think that was what was really key about the simplified version, is that there's a lot less you can do to prepare yourself for when it's not your turn. So, but again, that may be a pro for when you're playing with new players. Just focus on it being one turn at a time, slow down the pace. But ultimately, I feel that's better as a bit of a tutorial that I won't really be returning to regularly. There is also a solo mode that you can play on either the Simplified or the Advanced side. Now, what that means is basically you have 10 turns. You get all 6 dice on all of those 10 turns. So you can really just focus in on the core mechanic of the game and of those combos. You have full agency, full control of the dice every turn. So you can do some real planning and exploring those dishes, savouring each one without worrying about what everyone else is doing. So that was quite a fun experience. I have a playthrough that I streamed, but that is available now as a VOD on YouTube. So watch that. I'll link it down below. So as hinted at earlier, your enjoyment of this is ultimately going to come down to personal taste. The theme, for example, does go a long way if that's one that you enjoy. Obviously, the wok here in the board is a lovely little addition. It's a fairly flimsy little plastic insert, but it's a nice thematic touch. Even though I have some nice fancy dice trays, I can't help but use this. The dice themselves are lovely, vibrant, colourful ingredients. A couple of times playing this, we were treating the starting player who's rolling the dice as the head chef, and everyone else as the line cooks calling out ingredients: rice, broccoli, seafood, and we really into that. The rule book is full of food-based puns, so your mileage may vary there, but it is some lovely touches, really leaning into that theme. In terms of the interaction, it's going to largely come down to your group. A couple of friends had suggested that if they were going to play a roll and write that's a little heavier like this, with all the combos, they'd rather just play something like Hadrian's Wall that doesn't have that interaction. You're not going to have people interfering with your plans. Thanks so much for watching. Please like, share and subscribe to catch more of my reviews and edible treats. As I mentioned earlier, you can catch my stream VOD where I made some chow mein live on stream and played a solo game. Catch that in the links below. And yeah, I'll be back with more edible treats soon. Thanks. Remember to have a balanced gaming diet and to play with your food. Thanks for watching.